has started its own history class.
This is a legendary run by a legendary team. You got to enjoy every minute of it.
Let's find a way to win it. Tagovailoa is in trouble. Sacked. Back in the end zone. Caught. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Stone cold. Gets the big sack.
It was exactly 208 days ago that the Chiefs became the first back-to-back Super Bowl champion in nearly 2 decades. And now with an opportunity to become the first team in league history to win 3 straight championships, what better way to kick off the 2024 season than with a heavyweight battle against the Baltimore Ravens? We are 2 hours from kickoff. You've waited 7 months for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen. This is Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs. This is Field Pass, presented by StorageMart. And Mitch, we've talked all about the history his team could make over the last several months. Now we can finally start that journey here tonight.
I just put it out on Twitter, and it's the way I'll start the radio broadcast. Nobody has to say a word. Everybody knows that, Matt. But you and I have watched this team since the beginning of the off-season training program all the way back in the early spring, and I see it in the eyes of these guys. I sense it when I'm around them. There's no T-shirts. There's no bumper stickers. There's nothing up in the locker room or the weight room. They just know. They just know what's at stake, and we open the curtain tonight.
Now we're going to talk all about this matchup over the next 20 minutes or so. But first, you're suited up tonight. You're looking great. Normally we match, but
I'm a
you're
little
suited
overdressed.
Well, you are Maximus on the field tonight in the Roman Coliseum because it's banner night. We're dropping a banner here this evening, and you're the host of the festivities. How do you feel so far?
You know, it's last night we did a bunch of rehearsals with NBC for this, and Clark Hunt was there, obviously. He's part of it. And I said, Clark, I could get used to this. And he said, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's happened over the last 2 years that I could get used to. And I thought, well put. But tonight's this kind of mixture because you want to celebrate, and we'll be celebrating all 4 of our Super Bowl championship teams tonight. But you also have to get ready to open the curtain. And that's what I will say tonight in my brief remarks. I'll try to get them all lathered up, Maximus in the Coliseum. But I will say tonight we open the curtain and start the quest to do something that's never been done in the NFL. And we open the entire 272-game grid of the National Football League season.
And that's this team's mindset. It's what's next. But before we talk about what's next, let's talk about what we just did, because I think it's human nature to always be looking at the next goal. But this is pretty cool, what we're doing here tonight. You waited a long time to do stuff like this. Now you're an expert at it the last 2 seasons. Chiefs Kingdom waited a long time for moments like this to be a back-to-back champion. So it's important to enjoy it as well.
Absolutely, and you have to. And one thing I love about Coach Reed, and of course this is driving him crazy tonight, but you gotta celebrate milestones. You've got to stop and say this is remarkable. I will say 6,944 days since a team in the NFL did it. 20 seasons, almost 20 seasons. But then you've got to flip the switch in a second, a microsecond, and get ready to try to do it again. But you don't sacrifice one for the other, and so you have to have that blend. But that's what Andy Reid has done in his 11 years here, is had that mixture of celebrating milestones but keeping the task at hand.
Well, I'm happy for you. Enjoy
thanks,
this
brother. You
down
too.
here, all right?
You too. Not that I didn't bring all 3 rings.
I thought about it. I thought I'd lose them, though, if I did.
Oh, I know. I'm afraid. But I'm going to have it out on the field, and I'm going to be on NBC, so we got to let them know a little bit.
You got to have
of
the
that.
bling. No, it's important.
I got mad at Belichick when he did it, but
when you have the rings, you got to do it, yeah. Let's talk about this matchup a little bit, beginning with the Chiefs' defense. There it is. Very cool. Check that out, everybody.
I got all 3 of them now. I'll just got to dig them out of my pocket.
I'll bring mine to a podcast someday. I don't feel safe having them out here. I'm going to lose them. I just know it.
Now you make me nervous.
You'll hang on to it. Let's talk about this Chiefs defense last year, though, because they were so good. Number 2 scoring defense in the NFL, and they were consistent as well. They held opponents under 28 total points in 21 games last season. That was an NFL record. They were awesome, but now the challenge for those guys is to do it again this season.
I think they may not be that astute necessarily in that category.
Historic?
But they can be historic in other ways, and I think they have a chance to improve in other ways, and I'll tell you where, and that is to be more explosive defensively. This team last year in the regular season was minus 11 in the giveaway takeaway ratio, and a lot of that was they just didn't take the ball away much. Only 17 takeaways. That's 1 a game. In this AFC Championship game against these guys last year, there were 3 takeaways. And remember the play at the goal line on Zay Flowers. That's an explosive defensive play, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what I think this defense can do. I just think there's more propensity for this team to get defensive scores. Think of the game in Germany. The Chiefs are 14-1 in the 15 defensive scores they've had under Spags. You increase that by just a third, all of a sudden that could mean 2 to 3 more wins.
Well, I love their mentality in training camp. It was D-bet, demand better. So many times in the NFL or really any sport, you see a great offense or a great defense, think they'll be great the next year after being really good because we were good last year, we're going to be good again. Not always the case, but the Chiefs defenders, they told us day one of camp, we know we're not going to be good just because we were good last season. We have to earn it this year. I love that mindset, and it's the right mentality to have when you're facing Lamar Jackson, MVP quarterback, in this high-powered Ravens offense tonight.
And I think it's a blend of how they put this defense together. The re-signing of Chris Jones, the biggest of any free agent, I think, in the offseason. You and I talked about that on DTKs and other shows. But it's also the emergence of guys improving to the next year. Chamari Connor comes to mind, going from first year to second year. It's adding guys like Jaden Hicks, the rookie from Washington State, who can blend in. And then you've got leaders who have joined this team from other teams, Justin Reed and Drew Tranquil. And you still got Nick Bolton from the 21 class that's in there rock solid. Leo Chenal has grown. And I didn't mention Trent McDuffie. He's on the verge of being one of the top 3 corners in the league. So you follow my point. They've added, they've developed, and then they've drafted to it. And it's all of that in a mix here to make one of the better younger defense. This is a young defense that could be one of the tops again in the NFL.
Like everyone's under 25 besides Chris Jones. They're just ascing. It's very exciting.
Think about that and what they've accomplished.
I mean, they're undefeated in the playoffs for a lot of these guys.
They're 43-0. Those defensive guys are the guys in the 22 draft class are 43-0 in the playoffs. That's absurd.
It's amazing, and we'll need them to be good again tonight against Lamar Jackson. Like I said, former MVP last year. 3 for 24 touchdowns last year, and also led all quarterbacks with 821 rushing yards. He led a Ravens offense that led the NFL in rushing yards per game. Now, on one side, they lost a couple of their bell cows, and Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Ironically, both Chargers, so we'll see them later this season. But they did add a future Hall of Famer, in my opinion, and Derrick Henry to their backfield. Now, Henry is 30 years old, but does not appear to be slowing down by any means. He rushed for 2,705 yards and 25 touchdowns over his last 2 seasons with the Titans. And he does his best work after first contact. We all know that. Rushed for 930 yards after first contact last year. Led the NFL. He's led the NFL in that category in 4 of the last 5 years. So it's all to say, no arm tackles tonight against Derrick Henry. We have to match his physicality.
You must be gap sound as well. I know that sounds very coachy. You have to stay disciplined in your gap, because the Ravens have a very sophisticated run scheme. Think of the good run teams in college like Army or Georgia Tech or a team like that where their linemen can work in concert in that way. They've led the league in rushing, the Ravens, 3 of the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And then you add in Lamar Jackson. Will he be a willing runner tonight? He's led the Ravens in rushing 6 years in a row as a quarterback. But now you add Derrick Henry, who's 3-1 against the Chiefs in the regular season. You can't ignore that fact. And the fact that in one of the few times the Chiefs have been blown out, it was in Tennessee, and Derrick Henry was a huge part of that game. So you must be gap sound. You've got to be disciplined on every gap on the defense.
And one interesting part of this conversation is the Ravens' offensive line looks completely different. So they bid farewell to 3 starters on their offensive line from last year, and we don't actually even know what the combination is going to be yet. John Harbaugh hasn't told anyone. Only he knows what the offensive line combination is going to be tonight for them. But it's going to be some young players, maybe some players making their first ever start. Regardless, it's going to be a brand new unit. 3 of the 5 are brand new, and these 5 have not worked together in a regular season game. And this is a hard place to communicate if you're an offensive line. Should be something to watch.
Go back to the scheme I talked about. We talk about the alignment have to be in concert and in communication in pass protection. In this offense, the Ravens offense, which is so good and sophisticated in the run game, you have to also do that in the run game. They do some timing things, especially when Lamar Jackson runs the ball. It looks like a pass. It turns into a run immediately by design, but the linemen have got to be in concert with that. Linderbaum is a good center. Ronnie Stanley's trying to stay healthy. The other 3 are new. The other thing they're dealing with is some tragedy. They lost their offensive line coach, Joe D'Alessandris, on August the 25th. Now, he had been sick for a while, but Joe was beloved by that offensive line room. Just imagine if Andy Hack would go through that, and you lost Andy Hack just a week and a half ago.
Can't imagine.
Joe was here. Joe was a good guy. He was here for a while at the end of the Herm Edwards tenure, but they're dealing with that as well. So the offensive line, they lost 17 guys. they've had actually more change than the Chiefs have had since that AFC Championship game.
Yeah, just something to watch here in this game. Now, on the other side, the Ravens' defense was pretty good last year as well. I mentioned the Chiefs were the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL, while the Ravens were the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, allowing just 16.5 points per game. They did lose some significant pieces, though. So defensive coordinator Mike McDonald is now the head coach of the Seahawks, no longer in Baltimore. Jadeveon Clowney at edge rusher, he had 9.5 sacks last year. He's now a Carolina Panther. And then linebacker Patrick Queen, who led this defense in snaps last year, is now a Steeler. So they've lost some major pieces. Still a lot of good players, though. Nnamdi Madubuike, defensive tackle, their leading sack artist last year, is still here. And Kyle Hamilton, one of the better chess pieces in the NFL in the secondary, still here. So I expect this defense to be very good. They did lose some key pieces, though.
Last year, get this, they were the only team in NFL history to lead the league in scoring defense, touchdowns disallowed, and sacks. Not even the 85 Bears did that.
Wow.
That just tells you how superlative they were a year ago. And they've got guys at different levels. And you mentioned Nnamdi Madubuike. He changed his name back this week to his original Nigerian name, Nnamdi. It used to be Justin, right? But they still have Roquan Smith in the middle, and Kyle Hamilton, who's arguably the best safety in this league. And they use him much like Spags would use those safeties that roll around. He's a corner, he's a safety. But the point is, here's the big one, and you mentioned losing McDonald to the Seattle Seahawks. They also lost all of their position coaches. The NFL poached their defensive staff last year.
Yeah.
And so they have a 32-year-old defensive coordinator in Zach Orr, highly regarded. I think he's a rising star in the league, but this is his first time as a DC tonight against this team. And new position coaches at the D-line, linebackers, and DBs. That's a lot to adjust to if you're the Ravens defensively, and yet they're very good.
What's interesting with the Ravens is no matter who is there, they always kind of have this mentality and attitude. It goes back to like the Ed Reed and Ray Lewis days. They want to push you around. They want to be the bully, right? And I think the beautiful, amazing thing about the AFC Championship game last year is the Chiefs' offense was the bully early in that game. The Ravens don't like that when they get pushed around. Need a similar attitude from the Chiefs' offense here tonight.
I saw it in the late 90s. One of the great clips and the reels of all time is the Thursday night game. We played against them there, and Ray Lewis was getting pounded in the end zone by Will Shields, and he's going, I'm getting double teamed. No, you're not. It's just Will Shields owning you. And so the best way to take care of a bully at school is to get right after the bully. Bullies don't like to be stood up against. And so the Chiefs did that last year. I think your point is very astute. And even not just physically, but mentally. When Butker kicked that field goal right before the half to make it 17-7, that psychologically wounded to the Ravens that they never recovered in the second half. So you've got to take the fight to these guys or they will run you into the earth.
And one way we can do that is maybe unleashing this new look passing game here tonight that we're very excited about. Rashee Rice had an awesome training camp going into his second year. Very excited about what he can do. But also Xavier Worthy and the speed element could be in play here tonight.
It's like I said at the kickoff luncheon with Pat, the deep third of the offense is back open for business again. But I think what happened the last 2 years makes your point even more astute, and here's why. Follow me on this. The fact that Pat had to figure out another way to play. 5 times last year, he won games under his passing average. 3 of the 4 playoff wins, he was under his passing average. So I said it's like Max Scherzer learning how to throw a cutter or a nasty change or a backdoor slider, and you're going, now what do I got to face? With Patrick Mahomes, you have to face everything. But now that you go back in the third level of the offense of 19 and 20 and 21's back open again, he still has the 22 and 23 Mahomes. So it's exciting to see where this can go.
Yeah, he's more experienced, more patient, but now has those weapons that can take the top off the defense. It's very exciting. Think about Worthy against the Lions in that preseason game. Had that 39-yard catch on just the third play from scrimmage, touchdown a little bit later. If you're flat-footed as a DB against Xavier Worthy, he's gone. And that happened in that Lions game. And I really think that speed, it opens up everything. Because even if he's not catching the ball deep, if he's running deep, you have to respect it. If you're the Ravens, that opens things up underneath for guys like Rashee and Travis as well.
I like what you said, though, about Rice, because I have seen him go to the next level in watching him this spring and then watching him, especially at training camp.
Yeah.
His ability to run routes, that middle of the field that's opened up now because of Xavier Worthy, and when you get Hollywood Brown back, it's not only going to help Kelsey, but it's going to help Rice. Rashee Rice, think of the corner, the crosser in the corner he turned last year against the Raiders.
Yeah.
That was his breakout play, 39 yards. But you're going to see a lot more of that, in my opinion. But his route running has improved. The fact that he can capture the whole route tree has improved. So I look for the deep third to help Rice as much as Kels.
And his route on third down against the Niners in the Super Bowl and the game-winning drive, I mean, he's so good at those. We saw him run that route a million times in training camp. It's just very exciting stuff.
And the broken tackles. You bring it up all the time, but the yards after catch, what he did, Zay Flowers did it too. I mean, Zay Flowers had the best yards after catch as a Raven wide receiver by rookie in 8 years. And it's, all players for 8 years. But then you look at the yards after catch from Rashee Rice, and that gets exciting because he set records last year as well.
And breaking tackles, that sets a tone in a game. Isaiah Pacheco can do that as well, and we saw that in the AFC Championship game early last year. Listen to his first several carries in that game against the Ravens. He goes for 10 yards, 12 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, just pounding them over and over. Again, the Ravens don't like that defensively. Isaiah had an awesome training camp. Looking for him to set the tone here in this game.
Yeah, because the Ravens are going, wait a minute, that's what we do to other people. Other people do not do that to us. And the offensive line is key here. We get Kingsley Suat-Ma'atia opening his very first NFL game, baptism of fire. Joe Thuney back from his surgery in the offseason from his pec injury. But we know run in the middle is Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith is as hungry as ever. And then Jawan Taylor looked entirely different this year in the offseason. So those guys also set the tone with Pop in that running game.
I think this offense has a chance to be special this year. Truth be told, I think this might be the best offensive and defensive combination that we've had with Patrick Mahomes here, and that's saying something considering all the success that we've had over the last several years. But in terms of the offense specifically, I had a chance to catch up with the great Mike Tirico earlier this week. We're joined now by the great Mike Tirico. He'll be on the call for tonight's game. And Mike, what a quarterback matchup here with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Your initial thoughts on this quarterback matchup?
Yeah, we had to dig all the way down to the bottom of the quarterback pile for an opening night matchup, right? How about you come out with not only guys who are back-to-back MVPs, but for the second time in their careers, they follow each other as MVPs. And you just add the spice from the championship game, of course. Look, Patrick is at the top of the food chain. I've seen people do their tiers of quarterbacks, and he is the one guy in that tier that stands alone and by himself. But Lamar Jackson has everything to get there, including, I think, motivation after last year. So ideal matchup, new pieces on each side, always the ingredients for a perfect start to the year.
Well, let's talk about the new pieces for Patrick Mahomes. Finding the deep passing element this year was kind of the impetus in the offseason. Adding Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice has done more of that in training camp. What are you most excited to see from Patrick here in this game and this season, considering everything he's already accomplished, but how he could be maybe even better this year?
I want to see Xavier going 1,000 miles an hour, Patrick dropping back and throwing as far as he can. Let's just see it. We're all waiting to see it, right? When you get the guy who's the fastest in the combine history at the combine, you want to see that happen. But Rice develops into year two. Remember, with Kelce out at the start of the year, last year, more Noah Gray, more Pacheco as a receiving option, bringing Juju back, right, for the inside, Hollywood later on in the year when he comes back. So this was not the Chiefs' offense that we had seen the prior 3 years last year. I think it can be this year because of all these additions. As the team evolves around the championship quarterback, Hall of Fame tight end, the pieces around them are integral. And as they grow, that just allows you in the biggest moments, like that championship game and the Super Bowl, 15-87. So I think this might be a year where we see the Chiefs offense clicking again like it did a couple of years ago.
And on a micro level, facing a very good Ravens defense here, #1 scoring defense in the NFL last year, how can the Chiefs offensively find success here tonight?
Well, who are they? #1, because you always have personnel changes in the NFL, but a new coordinator, as their coordinator, Mike McDonald, is now the head coach in Seattle. Plus, a couple other guys on that staff are defensive coordinators around the league as well. So a little bit of brain change, if you will. So will this defense be different? Probably not. We've gotten used to what the Ravens defense has been. And that opening night chess match is always so interesting. Andy's got a diner's worth of plays there you can pick from, and you're just watching how does Baltimore match it, how does Baltimore adjust to it. I'm excited to watch Kyle Hamilton and his matchup with Travis. It was so good during the championship game. I know Kyle wants to come back and play even better in this game. He's one of the best defensive players, I think, in the league. He's a defensive player of the year type player. So that's one great matchup. But then can you hold up with the speed and the ability of the wide receiving core? Fascinating. We know Baltimore will be physical on both sides of the ball. That's what they do for a living. Kansas City was physical with them in that championship game. So let's see how that plays out on opening night.
Well, what a way to kick off the year. Mike, you're the best. Have a great call.
Can't wait to be back at Arrowhead and get this season started. So excited to see the fans and just sit back and watch some football that means something again. Look forward to it.
All right, great stuff there from Mike Tirico. We'll get the inactives here any moment, but we're really not expecting any surprises. We know Hollywood Brown isn't going to play here tonight with that shoulder injury. Getting better, just not quite ready. Hopefully we see Hollywood here in a week or two. But other than that, the Chiefs are in great shape. They're healthy coming into this game. And we're expecting Juju Smith-Schuster and Samaje Perine to both be active here in this game. Exciting stuff, adding those two veterans.
Yeah, we're looking at this storm moving in here.
It's about to rain any second now.
But two great pickups. I'm going to go to Perine, though. Brett Veach couldn't be at the kickoff luncheon. It's the day that you're going through waivers and putting your practice squad together, and I get pinged that we're going to get Samaje Perine. Okay, you know how concerned I've been for 5 months about not having Jerick McKinnon as a third down back. Samaje Perine is perfect for this offense as a third down back. Protections, here's a stat. I'm going to do a feature on him next week. 3rd and 3 or more, he gets a first down 76% of the time over the past 3 years. He ran right by us, right behind us here for a 41-yard touchdown in the AFC Championship game. Samaje Perine wears number 34. He's now a Chief.
If you want to know how nerdy Mitch and I are, after we signed Samaje, we watched just screen passes for like 30 straight minutes. Like, watch this one, look at that one, just screen passes. We're excited about Samaje Perine. Hopefully he has a big game here tonight. Looking at the Ravens, they're relatively healthy as well. We know rookie edge rusher Adisa Isaac out of Penn State, not going to play tonight with a hamstring injury, but outside of that, we're getting their best shot here tonight.
Yeah, they're healthy, they're ready, they're hungry, they're mad. And again, this is a risk when you do all this hoopla because you just remember what happened in 2017. One of my great memories was going into New England. They did all this, and we destroyed them. We put 42 on them, and they didn't know what hit them. And so last year, Detroit had the same motivation, beating us 21-20 here. So the Chiefs have got to exceed the intensity of Baltimore because they're coming in angry, motivated, and just mean.
Still haven't gotten the inactives. We might need to call it because this rain is coming in.
I don't think it's going to be surprises.
Yeah.
Hollywood's inactive, and that's really all you need to know.
Yeah, really not expecting too much craziness, but it'll be on Chief Social here shortly. This is what you want tonight, Mitch. It's two of the best teams in the NFL going head-to-head to kick off a 2024 season. And what an opportunity this is for the Chiefs. Talk all about the history this team can achieve in 2024. Well, beating the Ravens on opening night would be a great start. For Mitch Holthus, I'm Matt McMullen. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Let's go get a victory.
Okay. We clean?